Dr. Jacquie Del Rosario, better known as Dr. Jackie, America's marriage coach, is the founder and CEO of ReCapturing the Vision International.
My goal is, and my passion, by the way, is to help people to understand the ingredients of a good, strong, healthy marriage or relationship.
Dr. Jackie is also a TV personality, an author of over 15 books, provided congressional testimony, an invitee of the White House to work on national standards for youth programs, received the Humanitarian Award, and received keys to the city and accolades from Governor Jeb Bush. Dr. Jackie has a unique gift of sharing fundamental tools that lead to empowerment and life success. Dr. Jacquie Del Rosario, a visionary, an advocate, and an inspiration.
Thank you for joining us. It's going to be a pretty important 25 minutes. We're going to be talking to Dr. Jacquie Del Rosario. Thank you for joining us, Doctor.
It's always a pleasure.
My big question is, how can we as spouses talk to each other sometimes in such belligerent, obnoxious ways that we would never say that to anybody in the world? Right?
Well, usually you're more comfortable with the person that you know you love the most and that you feel the closest to. There's a sense of trust and safety. So a lot of times you have people that even come home after a hard day at work. They didn't get to offload at their boss, but guess who they'll take it out on?
Yep.
Yeah, and it's because of that. Number two, we're influenced by so much with what we see on television and what we think is the ideal couple, the ideal family, and the ideal scenario that really doesn't exist. The truth is relationships are messy. And I think that we're paired together with people that help to refine us and help us to process ourselves as we grow through life.
Let's talk about, speaking of growing, when the pandemic, I know it's been a while since it's been here, and everybody processes it differently. Some people were sort of bold about it. We were fortunate to be able to stay open. We used to have a piece of glass here where we worked and not, whatever, right? And so I went and hired a pedicure, manicure lady to come to the office, got it done. I thought my wife would think it was the best thing. I was taking care of myself. I go home. She locked the house up. Locked the house. I said, I have a key. I locked it from the inside. I went every window. No. She said, you're not coming to the house.
Mm-hmm.
It was 3 days. She says, I didn't respect her. She's probably hearing this right now. She's going to come up on the window.
Now you're making her recall a bad memory. That might not be the best
Didn't respect her. And she went right down the list. And I said, you're right. But because I wasn't so concerned, all right, that didn't mean that she wasn't. So what can we do as human beings so we can be a little more acutely aware of how we communicate with people?
I think number one is being aware of your communication style and how you're coming across. We have self-awareness, right? We have our self-image, but then there's a way that other people perceive you, and usually they're not congruent whatsoever. So I think awareness is really key. Number two, what do you want to be? You know, I hear people tell me all the time, oh, I did this and I did that. And when I repeat it back to them, they have trouble hearing it. I was like, but did I miss a fact? Well, no, that's what I told you. Well, I just don't like the way it sounds. Well, if there's something about you that you don't like, I got great news. You can change it. You can change it. So in terms of relationships, I think you need to be aware and also have a target. Who do you want to be in that relationship? And then start to acquire the tools to work to that. But, you know, as I thought about your situation with your wife, one of the first things I thought of is I thought you were going to bring the manicurist in and you're going to do something for her. But you only did something for you.
Yep.
And then you got to think about it. I think another big factor is compassion. We don't have the ability to put ourselves in other people's shoes enough. Like, think about it. You're thinking about that you're doing this, you've been open, you're going to bring someone in, you're going to take care of yourself, and self-care is good. Yes, it is. But let's balance the equation. You know how you do those quadratic equations? You got to balance each side. So now let's think about her. She's been home, locked in the house probably every day.
Every day.
You know how that was, being locked away every day? Oh my God, it got maddening.
I just can't imagine what it was like.
Well, it was good for me. Like the first week, it was like, for me not working for a week, you know, you're getting to turn on the TV and watch a little Netflix. I got to see movies I never had time to watch. It was pretty good. Going into the second week, you start yawning because it's like, okay, been there, done that. Like, when is the shaking and baking going to start again? And that's when I wanted to get active and start back doing what I love.
I was fortunate to interview Rabbi Manna Friedman, YouTube's #1 Orthodox rabbi, who's sitting right here. One of his original books was called The Joy of Intimacy. I read it.
The Joy of
Intimacy. So I said, listen, I was holding my wife's hand the other day, and I had this true moment of intimacy. It was like electrifying. It was just a brief second. And I said, how can I get more of that? And he looked at me, he says, Michael, it's all about them. It's not about you. And so I tried to do that. But sometimes we feel so self-centered and so narcissistic, and it's like, how can it be about them when it's all about me? So what is it that we can do so we can have that awareness, so that when we're having a conversation with somebody and communicating with them, that we can focus on them?
Well, I think it's a decision. It's really simple. When I tell people the simple things that they need to do to make a difference in their life, a lot of times they look at me and they're thinking, yeah, I'm going to call a therapist, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. We always want something that seems arduous. But the truth is, it starts with a decision. I want to make her happier. I want to create that joy and that spark in her life. My son, one year, worked the entire year to earn funds. And what did he do with them? He bought gifts for family friends. And all his joy radiated from was the time that he sat there as each person was presented their gift and they unwrapped it. He was so full of joy because he saw how happy what he got for them was. He was very intentional. So I think if the intention is, I'm just going to keep the focus on me, then that's the intention. But if you change the intention and say, I want to make somebody else happy, your love for that person, real love, is not about self. Real love is about how happy I make the person that I'm in love with. Likewise, the converse is also true. If you really love someone and you see that they're suffering and unhappy, something should be moved in your heart. You shouldn't feel as peaceful and as happy if you see that that person is hurting and suffering. So I think that what's happening is, in our ability to be and to do, we've lost connection. And so at the heart level, we're no longer feeling because we're no longer really connected to them. But connection starts with a decision. Number 2, connection is really blossoms when we decide to have compassion and empathy for the other person. We're able to think about them before we think about ourselves.
So as you know, the Miami-Dade County cut back on a lot of the not-for-profits. These were grants. They're not renewable, but they most of it went back. And I was fortunate to be able to speak to the mayor about that. And then recently, and she's a social worker and she's a loving, caring person. She's my mayor, right?
She is.
Absolutely,
She's definitely my mayor.
Right? And we're going to see her tomorrow morning. I watched her on TV yesterday when the alligator Alcatraz, when they were being, when it looks like it's going to be closed for a while, whatever, moved. She was crying, and I was watching her. She was overwhelmed by the grief that these prisoners, where they were, and the grief that was on her. Right? And we know that it's a variety of things. So one of the explanations for this cutback on the charities is that there's not enough money. And so my big question to the mayor and to all the commissioners, because really the commissioners vote on it, is if these not-for-profits are doing their job and helping people that need it the most, service, food, clothing, education, if we don't give that to them, is the private part and going to step up on it, or are they just going to be cut loose and then going to wind up somewhere else in a month or 2 months? At the end of the day, we are our brother's keepers.
Yes.
And we have to take care of them. And one way or the other, we're taking care of them, all right? Whether it's the Jackson Hospital or more free stuff for people. And so I'm not quite sure what the answer is, but you probably had some time to think about that. Obviously, you've been in your entire life of giving and caring about other people. Can you address that? Talk about that?
I'll start by saying this. I think that God created us with diversity for more than just one reason. But one is because there needs to be givers And there also needs to be takers. Takers are people that build cities like this. Givers are people that make sure that the underdog is taken care of, that they're seen, that their welfare is assured. And so I think that we have various people for different reasons. I really feel for the mayor because she has a very difficult, it's a thankless job. She has to make cuts. 400 and something million dollars is not a little, drop in the pot. Nobody can be expected to make everyone happy. But I would say that we need to balance. I think that there's a shift now where we're moving to thinking more about ourselves and less about the people that don't have a voice, that don't have opportunity. I think that that's happening more. And so I think that the onus is on us to step it up. And I think that we can all do it as individuals as well as collectively to make a difference. And somebody has to. I remember when I started recapturing the vision, I'm just going to be very honest. I was not always thinking, I wasn't just altruistic to be altruistic, but I understood one thing. We're all connected at the end of the day. Listen, whoever does not have food on their table, Maslow, his theory tells you, we will fight to survive. So that means what? Crime, crime, if you want to say it in Spanish. That means that that person's will to survive, we're all connected. So either I'm going to be the hand extended or you might be the hands held up. We are only able to be, I believe, half as good as the weakest link. And so somebody has to play that role. And that's why I think I do what I do. I taught my children the same thing, that your life on this planet is not just about your own becoming, but it's also your footprint should leave a legacy of who else you helped up along the way. I remember for me, it was a teacher by the name of Evelyn Baker at South Miami Heights Elementary. She made me really awaken to the joy of learning. Now, my parents did they were like, you're not bringing home anything under an A or a B. So my parents, they compelled me to. But the love of learning was awakened through Evelyn Baker. It took that one woman to make my entire trajectory change. And so I'm just praying that, that as we're being listened to and viewed, that what I'm saying today really does awaken something in someone else to realize I have a better cause. There's more to me than just working, raising my family. What footprint am I leaving that has impacted somebody else besides me and mine?
So certainly one of the things that has happened with my brother and myself since in these last couple of years is to recognize there's so many great not-for-profits and charity work that's going on. We've had this privilege in the last 6 months, probably, 30 interviews, including the other day, we interviewed the CEO, sorry, I forgot her name, of the Christie House.
Yeah, there's so many great works out there.
And it's like, oh my goodness. And
Christie
I just
House is
didn't
amazing.
realize. And you have the Camilla's House, and you have the Greater Miami Foundation, and you have the Caring Place, and Children's Trust. And the more you find out about these places, the more you find this connection to those people that are there. As yourself, you're not there by accident, all right? You're there because it's something that you have to give. Let's talk a little bit about your practice and, again, what you do to help people and how they can gain access to that.
So what, my process?
Yes.
So I think that we have asynchronous programs where people can view our programs online, on demand, but we also have program sites. So we're in schools all over, in New York. We started Los Angeles and Atlanta, but then the pandemic. New Orleans, Orlando, Broward County. And so usually it's in a school district. And so we're taking participants through those elective courses or pullouts that are within public schools. So it could be a charter or a Dade County or Broward County public school. And we basically work with teens from the age of 6th grade to 12th with our teen empowerment programs. Our after-school programs target K through 5th grade. And so we're doing STEM. We're teaching them SEL, social emotional learning. They're getting homework assistance, learning to read and to write better, learning about physical fitness. And so there's a wide variety of different skills that we're building with them. And then our other programs involve fatherhood and family strengthening. So we have our prepared marriage program, which teaches couples how to get along. So we have these date nights that we fund.
Really?
Listen, and we all need help. I don't care. I've been married 35 years. And, you work out all of these set of skills that you need to perfect. Then there's some new ones that develop as you evolve. So it's always a work in progress.
You mentioned about families, and there's a physician named is Dr. Tina Carroll Scott. She runs the South Miami Children's Center clinic around the corner from here. 17 years ago, she gave up her practice in Bal Harbor to help people here in South Miami that needed it the most. So when I first met her, I would talk about it was kids. She was taking care of. No, Michael. She said, I take care of the family. She only put to my families, all right, not to any particular patient. And one day, one of her families was evicted. They were thrown out. Two of the kids were both got into FIU. One was on a scholarship. The other one was brilliant. And they were right on the verge. Will somebody care enough to help us? And so she helped them. She got them in a hotel. And anyway, the kids are in college, all right? And they were right at the point of if somebody didn't come rescue them for that moment to help them get back on their feet, who knows what might have happened. And I'm sure you've had stories like that.
Absolutely.
What can you tell us about one or two of those?
Well, as a matter of fact, Alex, our assistant executive director, was at an event. It was one of your events, as a matter of fact, if I'm thinking correctly. And someone overheard him mention Recapturing the Vision. She's at Citrus, a director, and she says, "Did you say Recapturing the Vision? That program changed my life." Now, she came from a 2-parent household, but for some reason, she was just on the wrong path. She didn't care about anything. She was getting into trouble. And she said that program changed her life and it shifted her, and she's gone on to become very, very successful. So I know stories like that. I can count them. One of our students who was, as a matter of fact, she was taken to Christie House. She was removed from her family due to abuse, wrote a book, and was invited to the White House. It goes on and on.
The name Recapturing the Vision. Tell us about how that name evolved.
Well, when I was thinking about developing a program, at the time I had been hired at the district level, and I had a territory. So Southwood Middle was one of the schools that I was in, and I had the opportunity to meet with the principals, to meet with the teachers, and also the students and parents. So it gave me a 360-degree view of what's happening. What is the climate like in terms of our education system? It was really a unique thing. Here I am, I'm a girl born and raised here in Miami. I know the experience. I was born poor. So I'm thinking, the difference was my parents had all of the essentials. They told me who I was. They told me who I was not. They told me what I would do and who I would become. And they gave me the tools, and they implemented the rules and the strategies to make sure that I arrived at that place called there. So what I noticed when I would go do the home visits or when I spoke to the teachers, and the poor teachers, they're overrun with so many different responsibilities, but some of them are very negative. Oh, I had their sibling last year. They're losers. And you'd hear this talk. It drove me insane. It broke my heart because they're already being pegged and they haven't even seen the student yet. Then I go to the home and I'm looking at parents that are living below the poverty level. They don't have working vehicles. They're working 2 part-time jobs with no benefits. And I really thought to myself, like, wow, this could have been me, but what did my parents give me? So the thought, how do we recapture the vision? And the vision is the American dream, that you can be anything. You can be successful.
To me, when I hear recapture, that means that you had it and then it slipped away.
Mm-hmm. Well, the American dream.
Yes.
You understand now, though, Michael, that our younger generation do not believe in the American dream. This is why they are on jobs for 6 months to a year, and then they go to another job because they don't really believe in the American dream. You have people that have gone to school and they've racked up 40, 50, 60,000 in debt because they were told if you get the education, you can be successful. Most of them are trying to pay back these loans, and they have, they feel that they're being underpaid. So that whole hope of the American dream was, I think, in a tussle around the time that I founded Recapturing the Vision. So it's about recapturing the American dream.
When did that occur to you that you recaptured it?
What do you mean that when it occurred to me that I needed to, or
no, that when you ultimately settled on that name, was it personal to you? There was something that occurred that maybe it was slipping away and you wanted to grab it and put it back?
yeah, that was
Tell us
it.
about that.
Well, that's what I was sharing about. That for me, it was how do I give to them what I had, and that shifted things for me. It was this hope and this belief that if I do these things, I can become. And so I went about figuring out what were the things that my parents gave me that regardless, my parents were migrant workers. So, I mean, they were.
I want the little girls that are watching this right now,
Mhm.
I want you to say that again so they can hear that.
They were migrant workers. So that meant that they were literally in fields picking produce. My father taught himself how to be a laborer, then a mason. He then founded his own company, built a lot of this same skyline here, downtown Miami and the beach, and was one of the first people of color to be admitted into, or Black to be admitted into the union for contractors. And it changed everything for us.
When you were you aware of that at the time when that happened?
Yeah, of course I was.
So what was it like for you when you went, oh my goodness, look what my daddy did?
Well, I mean, I love the fact you don't think that way though, Michael. When you're a kid and you're watching someone do something, that's your dad. And you don't really internalize that. I don't think at the frontal lobe. What happens is you realize that you have innately acquired this view that everything is possible and that it just takes, some stick to it. There's so many things about you that I think about as I'm sitting across from you. You shared about your father. There are things that almost like osmosis that you pick up from your parents, even though they're not sitting down tutoring you. It's just who you observe them being in different moments in time. It shapes you and it kind of fills in the blanks to your life.
So Dr. Anna Price, she was former mayor here in South Miami for many years. She's also a pastor. 40 years ago, she said the excerpt of it, this is what I got of it. Michael, you have all the strength and power that you need. My kids are this big. Every day. Even if they weren't in the house, I would say going in the house and out. I know half the time they didn't hear him, but you know what? So now I'm working my grandson. And what a difference that one thing did, because not only does it allow them the possibility that they are going to be good. You've opened the door for them. Yes, you can do that. And there was a family member that said, I said, you need to go to graduate school. Why, you think I'm as smart as so-and-so? I said, yes, ma'am, you sure are. All right. Whether she wasn't, that was not relevant. It was that she had the confidence to go do that. And
well, we know that the world that we create on the outside is a mere reflection of the world that we see on the inside. So teaching possibility, giving confidence, like that's why I call it youth empowerment. It's everything. And what I love is also when you get a second chance at a grandchild. They have the same genetic life code as your child. So you've already had one whack at them as they were a child. Now you've figured it out and perfected it. So now you're better equipped to talk to the grandchild.
Yeah, and when I see my grandkids hugging me, and I see this renaissance there. I'm not quite sure why, but it's wonderful, right? And when I said to my granddaughter, I would tell your mother when she was little, Daddy loves you this much. So I'd say, Grandpa loves you this. How much does Grandpa love you this much? So there was a woman that changed my life significantly, like you said about Mrs. Baker. I was in Miami-Dade College, and I was failing an English class. And so the professor says, what's wrong? I said, I get confused. She said, I got a special class for you. Go in. It's her office. There are 2 desks in it. Where's the class? No, this is it. Tell me what's happening. And just by virtue that she asked me, I said, here's what happens. I put the paper in the typewriter. I start typing, and I get frustrated. I rip the paper out. She said, well, next time that happens, why don't you just pause and wait a minute and start again? And what a difference that made. Right? And I have up on the wall outside the building, when I was in college, finished my college, said, what do you want to do? I don't know. I really knew I wanted to do this. He said, why don't you do whatever you want to do the best you can until you don't want to do it anymore, and then go do something else. Those 2 things have been with me. One for 40 years and one for 50.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just need to have that memory of what Mrs. Baker did for you, or somebody else that can get us through some of those dark times.
Yeah. They answered a life question for you that helped you to map out your journey.
So if you've ever had, if you personally have ever been going down that rabbit hole, you're going around in there, what do you do? The self-talk to go, hold on there. All right. So somebody's watching this. I don't know who it is that's going to be listening to you. So what is it you say or do?
I think you have to think back to when was something similar to this? When did it occur? And what did I do that brought me to a successful resolve? I really believe in the art of self-talk also. Self-talk has been clinically studied. It's actually very, very effective. What you say to yourself turns on a certain part of your brain when you're saying it to your own self. Even with your health, did you know that there's chemical reactions that take place when you speak about your own body? Suppose you said, oh, my legs feel bloated. I feel bloated in here and in my legs. Do you know that your body actually begins to align with what you just said? So self-talk is powerful, but I always reflect on when have I dealt with something. It could be a completely different scenario, but maybe of the same magnitude or challenge, difficulty. And I'll remember, and then I'll remember what happened to me. What did I do to walk through it? And then I start with the self-talk. That lets me know what must I be saying to myself about myself.
Lots of folks when you say, oh, no, it doesn't happen like that when you have that negative thing. It does. 100% check. I'm strong. I can do this. I'm going to go out. This is what I'm going to do. I used to run a lot. And I would always talk to myself. Only got a half a mile more to go, do one step at a time. And so that's what happens when you also get in groups. So tell us, do you do group work?
I do.
And tell us about why that works.
Well, I think group works because people feel that they have kinship with others. They find that they're not alone and that there's other people that think and feel similarly to their thoughts and feelings. Group work is really, really good. I like it because each group is different. It depends on who's collaborating in that group. So I'm doing one on trauma treatment, where I'm going to be taking a group through the different phases. There'll be like 8 different lessons on how do you identify your trauma? How do you acquire, what are the important tools for you, different types of work that you need to do to work yourself through it. I think we're in a period where stressors have become more intense. Would you agree?
Yes. Everywhere we look.
Everywhere. Every day there's so much uncertainty.
And one of the things I've done recently, I just turned off the news. And I'm a news junkie. I just couldn't deal with it anymore. This week is the anniversary of Hurricane Andrew 33 years ago. And I know you were pretty young at that point, maybe 10, right?
I was married and had my first child.
And everybody has their own trauma. Even when I think about it, I get goosebumps thinking about that. So let's talk about those things that so often we think, oh, so far back it doesn't matter, right? But the reality is it does matter. So tell us how to best deal with that.
With the trauma of Hurricane Andrew?
Yeah, because when these hurricanes start coming up here, right, we're going to be late to something that was similar to that.
I remember when Hurricane Andrew was on the horizon, people were out partying, but I think we learned the hard way that we need to take it seriously and definitely be responsible enough to prepare. You need to understand, how has it impacted you? What are your triggers? So a lot of people were triggered by just the announcement of a storm. Sometimes it was the rain or the wind. And, there's been a lot of strong inclement weather that we've been having in Miami. So that triggers some people and it makes them, anxious and fearful. So identify what your triggers are. Manage, figure out what is it that helps you to mitigate the stress that comes with those triggers or that anxiety that you feel, and begin to really work it. I would also like to add that it's really important sometimes to let other people around you know what those triggers are and know what it is that you need in that moment so that you're able to manage those stressors better.
When Hurricane Andrew destroyed our house, people started sending us stuff. I said to my wife, what did we ever do to deserve this? I had never really received. I'd always been on the other end. It took me years to be able to receive without problems and to allow other people to give. Because that's certainly part of it. Because the enjoyment I get from giving, why don't we allow that somebody else? So about 3 months ago, I'm walking through the building. I said, what did I ever do to deserve this? And I have an answer, because I'm a good person. That's the awareness in 30 years or 33 years. Before I couldn't figure it out, right? And when we can accept that about ourselves, we can certainly go much farther and being able to lend a helping hand. And again, we don't know how anybody's going to respond to storms, and to be able to also acutely understand is when we have that reaction to allow that's all human. You can sit there and you can cry, whatever you want to do, just do it. So maybe you can get to the other side of that.
Yeah.
So one of the things when we were interviewing the folks at the Christie House, it was pretty emotional for me to see the kind of help that they assist with these young people from 0 to 25-ish type of approach. On the other hand, she was with some folks, I forget her name, sorry, right, where she's dealing with older Jewish folks. Mm. So we had this first series, the first quarter of life, and then the third quarter, or maybe the fourth quarter. Again, so there's lots of people that are out there that can help. Right? If somebody needs to reach you, what's the best way? They can go on your website. Can we put that up on the screen? And
sure.
We're gonna, right?
www.r as in red, T as in Tom, V as in victory.org.
It's terrific. Dr. Jacquie, thank you so much. And people can see your stuff. You've been on Fox and a couple of national TV shows. On your website, I think you have some of those reels that are there.
That would be under drjackie.com, and that's Dr. Jacquie with a Q.
Okay. First, thank you for joining us. And folks, there's a new term that's been around for a long time. It's called the Disney rule. The Disney rule is when you hug somebody, keep hugging them until they stop. Have a good day. See you. Bye.